Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Abhinav Pathak, co-founder and CEO at Perpule. Abhinav is a graduate of NIT Karnataka and has worked for Goldman Sachs before starting his own venture in 2016. Abhinav was also featured on Forbes 30 under 30 list in 2018. Hi Abhinav, welcome to ELI.
Thanks, Priya. Thanks a lot for having me over. Hello, everyone. Glad to be a part of this show.
Abhinav, I'd request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Sure. Thanks, Priya. So I basically graduated from NIT Karnataka in 2015. I've been born, brought up in Lucknow, lived in Delhi for a good amount of my life as well. And post college, we've been in Bangalore for almost 6 years now. Thoroughly loving the city and the place. I was with Goldman Sachs for almost 1.5 years. I mean, that's how I started my career in software engineering, and then grew to some other roles and responsibility, partially in the US and partially in Bangalore. So after that, I think post a very small stint of around 15 months with Goldman, I quit my job to really follow my passion, which is purely entrepreneurship. And after quitting, I think I got a few other co-founders, two more along with me, and we together started Perpule. I am still with Perpule, running it actively for the last 4 years.
Okay. Tell us about Perpule. Would like to know what is it about.
Sure. So Perpule basically started with a single point vision. How can offline stores become smarter? How can they become better in their current businesses? And how can they really leverage the power and scale of technology? So this is, you can say, somewhere around 2016, early 2016. And at that point, Flipkart, Amazon were really scaling at some unprecedented pace. And there was a debate out there in the market that would offline even exist, or would they die down to the massive growth rates that all e-commerce players like Flipkart, Amazon, etc. of the world are really scaling at. So since then until even today, we believe that look, offline guys would exist. They can't be displaced so easily. The kind of volumes they do, the kind of momentum they have, the kind of customers they service, right? Like this is crazy. That can't vanish overnight. They definitely are at a disadvantage because they are not able to leverage and scale their businesses because they are not technology enabled businesses. They are purely regular businesses, and technology is a very small enabler for them. So I think that's where we saw the opportunity that the offline guys would really want to appreciate technology because of multiple reasons. One, it reduces their cost. Second, it massively allows them to scale the businesses across different geographies. And third is massively improves the efficiency. So I think these three factors are very critical for any retailer, because retail again is a very wafer thin, low margin business. So any opportunity to kind of capitalize on that is something very interesting. So that was the premise with which we really started. And again, the three founders, right, none of us are from a retail background, weren't even avid shoppers. So we didn't really know how retail as a sector, as a business really works, but we were thoroughly fascinated by it because it's definitely one of the largest sectors to kind of deep dive into. It basically contributes 11% to the GDP of India, employs 9.9% of workforce of India. So it's a very, very large market. Inherently, my personal ambition always was to build a large business. Hence, a large market is kind of very, very critical to start with. So I think when all of this was kind of adding up, we understood that, look, retail is a pretty interesting space. How do we kind of enter, work with the leading retailers, learn more about their businesses, and in return, build technology solutions that can help them make their businesses better. So we started with a very simple self-checkout solution, which basically ensures that people don't have to stand in checkout lines. They can use their mobile phone to go to a store, pick up any item from the shelf, pay for it in the mobile app itself, get a digital invoice, and straight away go to the store. They don't need to go to a billing counter, stand in lines and things like that. We kind of build that whole product prototype, rolled it out with the leading retailers in India, like Hypercity, Big Bazaar, Spar, More, Shopper Stop, etc. Kind of ran that for the first, you can say, 12 months in the company. Understood that there are certain challenges, particularly to the geography of India. Got a great amount of learnings. Like I said, I think retail was a very new market for all of us. We didn't know anything about it. But in the 12 months, working very closely with the retail CXOs, we learned a lot. And in fact, being on the ground, we really understood the pulse of the Indian customer, who basically goes to the retail store, what is really on top of their mind, and how can we enhance the experience better. Post 12 months, we really pivoted into a very different model, which is what we do even today. We kind of pivoted from a self-checkout, you can say, customer enhancement technology solution to a B2B SaaS play, where we understood that the retailers have been using legacy technology solutions for their retail stores for the last 15, 20 years. It's time that they kind of upgrade that, take their billing systems to the cloud, because billing system and the inventory management system of a retail store is the most critical piece of technology they have in the store. So kind of taking this on the cloud, democratizing it, integrating it with all the new marketplaces, driving more business, are a bunch of things which they are absolutely not able to do today, despite a lot of efforts. So that's where we really saw a very good product market fit. We understood that, look, it's high time the technology infrastructure of the billing system, inventory management system, etc. of the store gets upgraded. That's what we kind of built, launched it with the same bunch of customers with whom we were doing self-checkouts earlier. And this was probably, you can say, made of early of 2018. Since then, we have been working on that billing product, which is called UltraPOS, and we have been scaling it in India. Early, you can say 2020, December 2019, January 2020, we started scaling in the outside India markets as well, like Southeast Asia and Middle East. So the focus now is to expand globally and take this product to a much larger base.
Abhinav, I would be very interested to hear about your learnings in first 12 months. Since you said you have learned about Indian customers and the way they retail. What are your learnings and why you pivoted? What were the challenges? I would be very interested to know.
Sure, absolutely. And I think that's the most interesting piece of life, that when you really fail at doing something, you actually learn a lot more than when you really succeed. So I think those first 12 months of learnings are very, very critical, not just to me, but to the entire company, Perpule. So I think we learned a lot, definitely. I mean, a lot when I say really a lot. But I think a few things on top of my mind right now would be, one, that when you're really scaling a customer centric business, how important retention really is, right? Like for a grocery scenario, a retail store, a customer goes to retail store at least twice to thrice a month. So if those type of retention rates are not really visible on your technology product adoption, you are definitely doing something wrong, was the first key learning. Then second would be around that India is a very tough market. Like adoption, although the product is good, it drives, you can say, it saves them time, but Indians aren't really people inherently who value such, you can say, things. They would rather not do it because there was a cashback at the checkout counter. So you kind of really need to understand the psyche of the customer, what goes in their mind, and only having a very small limited value proposition would not attract them, specifically if it's about efficiency. Indian customers don't really like efficiency much. They really like value added benefits to be linked with the product. So that was the other learning. Second was retail is highly unorganized. I mean, from the outside, it appears beautiful that like a company like a Reliance Retail or a Future Group, they do like 30,000 crore of business across 2,000 stores. But I mean, what really happens behind those stores and how unorganized they are, how many assumptions they make finally to add up the things on their assets and liabilities, which finally reflect in the balance sheet, is just crazy. So I think a lot of enhancement is needed to help retailers digitize their business first, and then really think about the customer. That was the prima facie biggest learning we got, that because customers are not really able to adopt and enjoy technology because retailers are not tech savvy still, right? Like retailers are the ones who own the experience in a retail store. So they have to digitize their experience first, get rid of the manual process, which has a massive amount of errors and inefficiency. Unless that gets upgraded to a fully digital stack with a very, very high efficiency, there is no point pushing technology to the customer because the adoption won't happen. The experience finally rests on the digitization and the overall, you can say, control of the retailer. This was the pivotal and the most critical learning. Beyond that, I would say one final learning was around that, I mean, if you're really thinking to attract the customer, you have to think of the experience in a very different way. And you have to map out the complete journey, how the customer is going to really use your product. And you have to really iron out every single glitch, because in the whole journey, say if the customer is going to use your product for say 40 minutes while he or she is in the retail store, any 5 seconds interval also where his or her experience is not great is good enough for him to drop off. So building a very, very beautifully connected experience for that entire 40-45 minutes journey, not having any issue whatsoever, is the basic and the bare minimum you need to do to drive a consumer product. So I think that kind of thinking we understood very well, thankful to all the retail partners and the millions of customers who used our product for that 12 months to give us all that feedback, which we kind of took and eventually built into UltraPOS.
Okay, very interesting. Abhinav, now would like to know what was your first day of entrepreneurship like. Would like to know what you did when you quit your job, the first thing you did.
Good question. So first thing I did, actually not one, probably I was doing too many things. So first was basically I had two founders by the time I quit my job. So one most critical piece to was to kind of really give them the right direction in terms of what product we are building and why are we building it. It's very critical for them to really understand and get bought into the concept equally, if not more. So I think that was the first critical piece. Second was I understood that all three of us, the three founders, are from tech background. So building a culture of sales, basically attracting customers, is not something that the other two co-founders could learn inherently out of the box. Obviously, they're very smart people. Given time, they would pick it up very soon. But at that point, it was purely my responsibility to attract a few leading retailers of the country to kind of sign up for the product that we were building. So I think these two were the larger things. I didn't think about anything else. I mean, funding, etc. I didn't want to think about. It was too early. We wanted to kind of build a product, launch it, understand is it even worth the effort, and then kind of go to investors, etc., and raise money. So these two things were the most critical things when I did on the first day.
Speaking of onboarding customers, I would like to know how did you get hold of your first customer, and what was the experience like?
I think it's quite tough, honestly. So for multiple reasons. One, India is a very competitive market. Second is India is a highly bureaucratic market as well. So unless you aren't a big enough entity, large businesses don't want to work with you. And that's a chicken and egg problem, right? Unless you are big, large folks won't work. If large folks won't work, you are not big. So I think it's a chicken and egg problem. There are hacks to kind of solve it. And I think the biggest way to kind of penetrate into a large legacy market is you can say persistence. You have to be really, really persistent, and you'll be surprised because initially the portion is tough, but once you're persistently doing something as a massive, you can say with a massive discipline and rigor, you will really see that it kind of pays you back over a period of time. What I mean by that is, I think to attract our first customer, I would have at least, you can say, spoken to probably 100 people across 35 different retailers in India to sign up the first customer. So the conversion rate, if you understand, is like really, really bad and poor, but it kind of keeps on building. So you can say attracting customers is not about really telling them something and asking them to sign up for. It's about, you can say, building a brand. People don't really buy products. They buy people brand a lot more than they really invest in products. So I think that is something that people need to understand. And building a brand is a slow exercise. It does take time. You'll have to go individually to people. I mean, that's how networks really start, right? So first you'll have to individually talk to a critical mass of people, inspire them, and then that critical mass of people will start talking to their networks and peers. That's how networks really build, and that's how brands really build. So the first initial phase is going to be very hard. You have to really put your head down and be extraordinarily persistent. But once your threshold is crossed, it all comes back, and then the word gets spread if you are doing something worthwhile. So I think persistent, then using platforms like, I mean, ping people on LinkedIn, Twitter, use references, have a bunch of advisors and mentors who can introduce you to people, all these regular tactics of lead generation, and taking time personally to pitch and talk to all of them is something which is very interesting, not just to kind of cast a good image, because you are also in the process of learning. It's a new virgin market for you. So the more you talk to relevant, smart people, the better it is, and the faster you will learn. So I think these bunch of things is what we did. The process went on for, I would say, a good 6-7 months before we really cracked our first customer. And after that, it just came. I mean, 6 months to one customer, another 6 months to probably 10 more. That's how the market scales.
Okay. Abhinav, you spoke about the chicken and egg problem, and this particular problem is there in all the aspects of entrepreneurship. For example, if you don't build a good team, more good people will not join. If you don't have good people, how will you make a good team? Similarly, it goes with funding. If you don't have funds, how to build a good product? If you don't have a good product, how do you attract investment? Having said that, Abhinav, is there one single way that you would like to share with us on how do we solve this problem of chicken and egg, especially in context of entrepreneurship?
I think very valid point you did highlight. I think a lot of problems are going to be those chicken and egg problems. A few you highlighted, probably a few hundred more. I think the golden rule there would just be to be extraordinarily persistent. It's going to be hard. The first phase is going to be hard and only compounds over a period of time. So I think persistence is the key. Beyond that, there would be a unique way to solve all of those problems, which is why entrepreneurship really is about finding smart ways to make your way through. So I think a couple of things like funding, right? If you don't have funds, how do you build a business? If you don't have a business, how do you raise funds? So I think stuff like that is still getting easier to solve because thankfully the FDI coming in India is massively increasing. The bunch of investments happening also is extraordinarily increasing. I mean, when I talk to VCs, I understand they are below their targets of deploying funds. So stuff like that is becoming much better. But I think it's all about being persistent, talking to every possible fund out there. Some of them would take some bets for sure. It does work out if you are really persistent. On the other side, I mean, how to attract a team, I think that's the most critical and the hardest problem that any entrepreneur has to face. Everything else is secondary. If you don't build a rock solid team, which is equally inspired about the problem and the product and the business you are going into, there is no way you will ever succeed. So I think for that, and a good team is really expensive to hire as well, and you won't have that type of cash available early. So I think it's all about how you can say flamboyant you are. If you can really attract people, give them good chunks of equity into the company, if you can really you can say motivate them, make a few future commitments that whatever losses they would bear on their personal, you can say, compensation for a period of say early whatever 6 months, 1 year, till the company is really scaling and raising any funds, you will compensate them over the period of their stay in the future years. So these are the few ways to kind of hack through. But like I said, it's all about finding the right hack. If you find the right hack for the first small set of people, like the first 2 customers or the first 3 core employees or the first you can say angel or the VC investor who would invest, that's all. After this, you will never need to hack. So the word spread, like I said, right? And that's how all networks are built. So for the first one, you will have to be extraordinarily persistent, really put your personal credibility on the line and convince them to invest in you, whether it's an employee or a co-founder or a investor, whosoever they are. All of them are really investing in you more than the product first. So I think putting your credibility on the line is the easiest way of doing it. Once you have all of this, the word of mouth spreads, the business starts scaling. You really have a product which is showing the right results. So then I think it starts multiplying in a very different way.
Would like to hear how it happened with you. How did you find your co-founders and your first set of teammates to work with you?
Sure, very, very interesting. I think for me, two key things there. First was my employer, Goldman, and second was my college and IDK. So my second co-founder, who is our CTO, Saket, is from IIT Madras, same batch of 2015 as me. He was my colleague at Goldman. I think the two of us really got to know each other quite well. We traveled to New York together as a part of our training program, etc. So I think we bonded very well and we understood that we have similar aspirations. So getting him on board when I was starting Perpule was fairly straightforward, thanks to I mean, us working together and kind of spending a lot of time together. So that was the first set of network that I tapped into. The second set of network was my college in NIT Karnataka, where I met a bunch of really, really smart people. I'm amazed to say, I mean, how many smart undergrads really come into NIT Karnataka. So I think leveraging that, talking to all of them, understanding their aspirations, learning from them, I kind of kept doing this over the period of 4 years of my life during the college. Met with a very smart person again, Yogesh, who is the third co-founder at Perpule. He was a 2-year junior to me in college, and we kind of became close friends quite early in college itself. Did a few was starting Perpule, it was quite easy to get Yogesh on board as well in the early days itself. So that's how I kind of tapped in. And I think these two are the most powerful networks I had that point. Now, thankfully, to Perpule, I have a lot more powerful network. But I think such initial networks which actually have value, everyone would have in some or the other format. It can be your college, it can be your employer, it can be any friend circle. I think you can really hatch on to them or get the initial bunch of folks out. Like I said, this is the hack you're doing to get the first set of folks. After that, the word scale. So once the three of us really started building, we got a real customer as well, we got a VC as well. Now we were actually building stuff at scale. So then attracting the other set of employees who actually went on to become core employees for us was quite easy. Although I mean, the college network was so powerful that I think a good chunk of our initial employees, almost 30-40% of our initial employees were just from my college. So I think stuff like that would definitely happen over a period of time.
Okay. So since you mentioned you have multiple co-founders in your team, I would like to know, how do you come to a common agenda and how do you resolve disputes between co-founders?
I think that's a good question again. And I think how we look at it is disputes and you can say disagreements are good. I mean, it's very good to disagree because then you debate, and when you really debate is when the best comes out. So we really appreciate. And I thankfully have founders who are really good at disagreements and they can really prove you wrong more often than not. And the same culture we kind of really try to inspire and inculcate in our core team and eventually every single employee as well. So I think we, number one, celebrate disagreements. It's very critical to kind of objectively debate and think about things is first. Second, if suppose, I mean, the easiest way to resolve a discussion is logic. I mean, the one who gives the best possible logical scenario is the one whose approach is taken. If suppose there is a conflict, there are multiple logics, and you don't know which conflict to really go with, then the organizational structure really comes into the picture. I mean, for example, if you have number of bets. I mean, if your teams and peers can really give you better arguments to do something in a different way or not do something that you're suggesting, good enough. You should more often than not agree. But if you really think that you are confident about your decision, then you will have to really tell the team that, look, guys, this is how it works, right? I mean, there's a org structure and all of us need to agree to it. And there's a beautiful value of org right around disagree and commit. This is something that we have kind of taken inspiration from Amazon, right? It's one of the org principles of Amazon. So whether or not what we are going ahead with something is something that you kind of told, it's perfectly fine to disagree, but once the decision has been taken, you have to commit with 100% of your commitment. So I think such frameworks really help us handle those conflicts.
Okay. Abhinav, what are some of the challenges you faced along the way while building and growing this venture?
Uh, I think probably, I mean, lot. I mean, number of challenges in a journey of an entrepreneur is crazy. But I'm just thinking to highlight the largest ones, which have actually costed us the most, right? Is probably the maturity, right? When I started Perpule, I was probably 23 years old. So at 23, not having the right work X to really build a business, understanding what all really goes into building a business, not managing teams at scale. I mean, I was just managing like 3 people team, 4 people team at Goldman. So I think when you're very young, there is a certain bunch of things that you don't know, which a 35-year-old by default experience would get. So I think that is the biggest thing which I kind of realized was missing. But thankfully, I made a very good network of people and advisors who I'm very close to. There are at least like 12, 13, 15 people who I talk to every, you can say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or at least a month. So I think these folks are the ones who have gone through that entrepreneurial journey while they were young or while they were old is secondary. So a lot of feedback comes in from there, which you really need to take, however good or rosy or bad the feedback is. You should really take it very, very constructively because those guys are really interested in advising you and helping you become better in your business, in making your business better. So I think having that pool of advisors, this is very, very critical for young entrepreneurs because the journey is limited, right? Startups compress 20 years worth of work in 5 years. So if you're really going to do that, you can't afford to do game changing mistakes. I mean, it's perfectly fine to do wrong product strategy, I mean, you will do a bunch of mistakes and it's perfectly fine because the 1 or 2 right decisions would pay for the hundreds of mistakes, but you can't do something which smart people would know because that will set you back by a few months. So having that pool of network specifically for young entrepreneurs who can tell you the basic bunch of things, right? How teams are led, what is the importance of org structuring, how do you kind of get HR to become a critical part of the organization, what do finance folks do, what is the importance of legal? These are all solved problems. Just because you are young, you are never exposed to it is why you have never really learned it. So talking to people who have been through those journeys and really inculcating those things from them would really increase your momentum and pace because these are all new workflows, right? What is the importance of legal in an org? What is the importance of HR in an org? Is not rocket science. Someone who has gone through that knows that. But unless you have gone through that and learned that, you would do mistakes in getting it right. So the secondary bunch of things, I generally call it the tertiary pillars of the org. For young founders and entrepreneurs, it's impossible to know it, and that's perfectly fine. What you are really great at is the product and the business that you're building. So focus there. All these tertiary pillars, either get experienced folks to start driving it very early in the org. If you can't do that for whatever reasons, have a pool of networks who can advise you in terms of how to build that. I think that was the biggest challenge and learning for me in life. Now, I mean, I do a lot of angel investments. I consult a lot of entrepreneurs. Most of them are fairly young. So now I take time to tell them about all these things. And I think programs like these, the one that you're running here, is again very critical and quite you can say, motivating to understand what are the real inherent challenges that would come for sure. And just knowing them well in advance would really give you the right, you can say, mechanism to solve those challenges and problems.
Okay. Abhinav, would also like to talk about what has been your learning on retail industry in general. So when I ask this question, I also would like to point out the fact that retail is changing rapidly, especially in Indian context. Online retailers are gaining momentum, and offlines are lot of offline retailers just become bankrupt during this COVID crisis. So, would like to hear your point of view on how retailers can reinvent themselves and look for the bright side in the new future.
Sure, I think that's a very interesting question. And honestly, I would say the more I spend time in retail, the more I learn about it, the more I fall in love with it, because it's such a critical pillar of the GDP. It's such a critical pillar of the country, right? Like everyone is exposed to retail around the world. Nobody is not exposed to retail. I think what the key learnings are for me, and which I keep sharing with my retail folks, I mean the CXO that I generally work with of the leading retailers in India. I kind of keep learning from them and keep sharing with them is that first you have to embrace the change. Retail is like a fairly old market and industry, but I'm very surprised to see the pace at which they are now embracing technology. So I think first is getting out of the denial, understanding that look, market is moving way faster than you are. It's very critical to latch on to it and really grow with it and embrace the change, adopt technology as much as possible, automate your businesses and processes, reduce the dependence on people. So retail traditionally is a very people-led ops heavy business. With new technologies coming in, new stuff coming in, it's very critical to kind of implement that in your business. Obviously, India is a market which is very cash, you can say, crunched as well. So it's critical to build the right relationships, raise money either from the public markets or from private investors or from banks, because you would need that type of capital to invest into the technology, which would eventually give a return on optimization and efficiency over a period of 5-10 years. So understanding that today, making those investments today is very critical. One for retailer. Second, the most interesting line I've really read in the book, which is game changing again, is that, I mean, it's a book called The Four, which I was just reading a few months back. The line really goes like this. It says, the richest person of 19th century got minimum wage employees to sell you stuff. The richest man of 20th century got zero wage robots to sell you stuff. So he's really talking about Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, and Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, right? So largely what they really mean by this is that retail is the most exciting market. It's all about optimizing that further. So if you can really look into new innovative ways to optimize your businesses, reduce your costs, or massively scale your revenue, I think both of them are very critical. Maintaining a tandem and having a separate focus on new initiatives which could do this is as critical as running your entire regular business. I think these are the key things that I've learned so far.
Okay. We are almost up with the time, and here is my final question to you. Tell us how our audience can start their journey as entrepreneurs. What would be your advice to them?
Sure. Actually, not as hard as you think from the outside. It is definitely a different world. I mean, very different from doing a job, very different from doing any regular, you can say, thing for your livelihood. The responsibility is massive, not just for yourself, for your own living, but for the hundreds and thousands and lakhs of people who would eventually become a part of your business. So I think it's very critical to understand and appreciate these stakeholders, but not getting intimidated by that. I think when you really think of a business and the responsibility, any normal person would get intimidated by the responsibilities and the challenges. So I think taking a leap of faith, because it does work out, right? There are so many businesses in the country. So really understanding that and appreciating that and getting the confidence from that, that look, if a million other people can do it, so can you. It's not impossible. It's all about taking the leap of faith and really just going and following your passion, if there is particularly about any field or a business, is first. Second would be, it's actually becoming easier over a period of time, because the number of people who are taking time to help new entrepreneurs is massively increasing. Like the program like this, right? ELI is one example. There are hundreds and thousands of other programs where people are really trying their best to help educate early business owners, founders, CXOs to really understand and do things in the right way. So I think the sharing of the ecosystem is massively increasing. The ecosystem is maturing beautifully. So I really believe over a period of next say 3-5 years, it would become a lot more vibrant than what it is today. The number of businesses would become 10x, number of advisors would become 100x. So I think it would be a lot more easier to tap into the right set of people, get help, and make sure that you don't get stressed too much. Third is to really understand that, look, there is dearth of capital. The number of capital, the VCs coming into India, private equity firms coming into India is actually increasing at an unprecedented pace. If you really just look at the FDI, India is raising year on year. It is increasing at a massive pace. I mean, no asset is really growing at that pace. So what that means is India is, you can say, very, you can say, focused destination for the world, because it is the largest untapped market left in the world. We are blessed to be in India, and really appreciate that. So I think the next 8-10 years is very critical, because there is a, you can say, research which basically says that once the GDP per capita crosses $4,000, the economy sees exponential growth. Because at $4,000, you per capita income, you really have more than enough to really pay for your livings, and that's when you start spending in auxiliary and tertiary products and services, which is what drives exponential growth for the economy. The same happened for the US, the same happened for China, Japan, Germany, France, etc. The same people are projecting, even at the worst possible growth rate, we would cross the $4,000 mark in next 10 years. Hopefully, if we really are able to grow at 7-8% GDP, it would happen in the next 6-7 years. But I think, which is why now is the very critical time. If you really build businesses who sustain for the next 7-8-10 years, they would really drive a lot more value once India's GDP per capita crosses 4,000. So understanding that today is very critical, because once people cross that, all the costs will go massively more than what they are today. So building a business today, enduring it for the next 8 years, would really give you very, very good returns to you, your investors, your shareholders, the country in general, right? Like GDP is all about taking a value sum of money and rotating it as many times as possible. So I think building a business and understanding those nuances of the market, you are really doing a service not just to yourself, your shareholders, but to the country, because it's the best way to revive the GDP and the economy, and massively contribute to make India a much better place.
Very interesting perspective. Perhaps I'm hearing this for the first time. $4,000. I definitely research more on this. Abhinav, we have come to the end of the session. Anything you wanted to share and couldn't share because of my questions, you can share now.
No, I think you had a very good series of questions. It pretty much covers the most critical aspects that I'm sure the viewers would love to know and kind of take as a note. So I think a beautiful series of questions. And second, I would really want to thank you for taking time. I'm loving the program. Thanks a lot for having me here, and appreciate your persistence for getting so many entrepreneurs to kind of do this with you. I think you are also doing a great service to the country and the bunch of entrepreneurs at scale. So all the best. Keep doing it, and really happy to be a part of this.
Thank you. That really validates my work, and I'd say it was a great pleasure to host you here at ELI, and our audience would have got lifetime lessons from this video. Abhinav, thanks for your time and best wishes for Perpule.
Thanks a lot, Priya. Wish the same for you, and thanks everyone for viewing the video.
Viewers, you can follow and connect with Abhinav on LinkedIn by searching for Abhinav Pathak. Also do visit their website by typing perpule.com. That is it for today's episode. We'll be back with another exciting entrepreneur. Stay tuned to ELI.